A small hand tugged at designer jeans in the crowded Los Angeles animal shelter. The afternoon sun streamed through dusty windows, casting long shadows across rows of cages filled with abandoned animals. The little girl's voice was barely audible above the cacophony of barking dogs and meowing cats. "Can I buy that kitten, Mommy?" she whispered, pointing to a tiny orange tabby pressed against the bars of its cage. What happened next would change everything. The woman standing nearby wasn't just any mother. It was Ronda Rousey, former UFC champion, whose own daughter had just asked the same question. But when she turned to look at the kitten the child was pointing to, her face went completely white. The kitten bore an unmistakable mark, a distinctive scar across its left eye, identical to one she remembered from years ago. Her hands began to shake as memories flooded back. This wasn't just any kitten. This was impossible. Yet here it was, staring back at her with those same haunting green eyes. "Mom, are you okay?" her daughter asked, noticing the sudden change in her mother's demeanor. Ronda couldn't speak. The shelter volunteer, a young woman with kind eyes, approached them with a clipboard. "Are you interested in Mango? He's been here for 3 months. Poor little guy was found in terrible conditions." 3 months. The timeline matched perfectly with something Ronda had been trying to forget. Something that had haunted her dreams and made her question everything she thought she knew about her past. The shelter was unusually quiet for a Saturday afternoon. Most families came earlier in the day, but Ronda had specifically chosen this time, hoping to avoid crowds. She needed this adoption to be private, personal. Her daughter Emma had been begging for a pet for months, and after her recent divorce, Ronda thought a companion might help them both heal. But now, staring at this kitten, healing seemed impossible. "Ma'am, would you like to hold him?" the volunteer asked, already reaching for the cage door. "No." Ronda's response was sharper than intended. Emma looked up at her mother with confused eyes. Other visitors in the shelter turned to stare. The volunteer paused, her hand on the latch. "Is everything all right? Mango is very gentle, I promise. He's been through a lot, but he's incredibly sweet." Ronda's mind raced. She needed to get out of here, needed to think. But Emma's disappointed face made her reconsider. Her daughter had already fallen in love with the kitten, and explaining why they couldn't take him would require answers Ronda wasn't ready to give. "I'm sorry," Ronda said, forcing her voice to steady. "It's just, he reminds me of someone." The volunteer's expression softened. "I understand. Sometimes animals can bring back powerful memories. Would you like to look at some of our other cats?" But Emma was already pressing her face against Mango's cage, making soft, cooing sounds. The kitten responded by purring and rubbing against the bars, clearly drawn to the little girl's gentle energy. "He likes me, Mom. Please? I promise I'll take care of him." Ronda closed her eyes, trying to push away the images that kept surfacing. A different time, a different place, but the same distinctive markings. The same way the animal seemed to look directly into her soul. "There's something you should know about Mango," the volunteer said quietly, stepping closer to Ronda. "He was rescued from a very specific situation. The person who brought him in, well, they left a note." Ronda's blood ran cold. "What kind of note?" The volunteer glanced around nervously before pulling a small piece of paper from her clipboard. "It's addressed to the woman who would understand. We thought it was strange, but sometimes people leave messages for potential adopters." With trembling fingers, Ronda took the note. The handwriting was familiar. Too familiar. Her worst fears were being confirmed with each word she read. "Ronda, if you're reading this, then fate has brought you here. The truth about what happened that night in Vegas needs to come out. This kitten is the only witness to what really occurred. Take him home and the answers you've been searching for will follow. But be warned. Some people will do anything to keep their secrets buried. Trust no one. Ma." The paper slipped from her hands, floating to the concrete floor. Emma was still playing with Mango, oblivious to the storm brewing around her. Other families continued their visits, unaware that something far more dangerous than pet adoption was unfolding just feet away. "Mom, you're scaring me," Emma whispered, tugging on Ronda's sleeve. Ronda knelt down to her daughter's level, trying to appear calm despite the chaos in her mind. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Mommy just needs a minute to think." But nothing was fine. The note confirmed what she'd suspected for months, that the car accident that nearly killed her wasn't an accident at all. Someone had tried to eliminate her, and apparently, this kitten had somehow been there to witness it. The volunteer was watching them carefully now, clearly sensing the tension. "Ma'am, if there's a problem with the adoption process, we can discuss it privately in my office." "That won't be necessary," Ronda said, standing up and making a decision that would change everything. "We'll take him." Emma's face lit up with joy, but Ronda felt only dread. By taking Mango home, she was opening a door she'd tried desperately to keep closed. But the alternative, leaving him here where anyone could claim him, was even more dangerous. As they completed the paperwork, Ronda's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Smart choice. But remember, you're not the only one looking for answers. Watch your back." The shelter suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Every person seemed like a potential threat. Every shadow a place where danger could hide. Ronda hurried through the final documents, her signature shaky on the adoption papers. "Congratulations on your new family member," the volunteer said, handing over Mango's carrier. "I hope you'll both be very happy together." Happy. The word felt foreign now. As they walked toward the exit, Ronda couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The parking lot stretched before them, filled with cars and potential hiding spots. Her training kicked in. Scan for threats, identify escape routes, protect the innocent. Emma skipped beside her, chattering excitedly about names and toys for their new pet. The innocence in her daughter's voice was a stark contrast to the danger Ronda knew was closing in around them. "Mom, why did that lady give you that note?" Emma asked as they reached their car. Ronda had hoped her daughter hadn't noticed. "It was just information about Mango's care, sweetheart. Nothing important." But it was everything important. The note had confirmed her worst suspicions and opened a door to a past she'd tried to leave behind. As she buckled Emma into her car seat and secured Mango's carrier, Ronda made a silent promise to herself and her daughter. Whatever secrets were buried in Vegas, whatever truth this kitten held, she would uncover it. But more importantly, she would protect Emma at all costs. The people who had tried to kill her once wouldn't hesitate to hurt an innocent child if it meant keeping their secrets safe. The drive home was tense, with Ronda constantly checking her mirrors for signs of being followed. Every car that stayed behind them too long, every motorcycle that seemed to match their speed sent her heart racing. Emma continued to talk to Mango through the carrier, unaware of her mother's growing paranoia. Their house in Malibu had always felt like a sanctuary, but now it seemed vulnerable. Too many windows, too many ways for someone to get inside. Ronda made a mental note to call her security company first thing Monday morning. As they pulled into their driveway, Ronda noticed something that made her blood freeze. The front door was slightly ajar, just a crack, but enough to know that someone had been inside their home. "Stay in the car, Emma," Ronda commanded, her voice taking on the authoritative tone that had once intimidated opponents in the octagon. "But Mom, I want to show Mango his new home." "Stay in the car." Each word was deliberate, leaving no room for argument. Ronda approached the house carefully, every sense heightened. The afternoon was quiet. Too quiet. No birds singing, no neighbors working in their yards. Even the ocean breeze seemed to have stilled, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The front door creaked as she pushed it open. Nothing seemed disturbed in the entryway, but Ronda knew better than to trust appearances. Someone had been here, and they might still be inside. Moving through her own home felt surreal. Every room held the potential for danger. Every corner could hide a threat. But as she completed her sweep of the house, she found something far more unsettling than an intruder. On her kitchen table sat a manila envelope with her name written in the same handwriting as the note from the shelter. Inside were photographs, dozens of them taken over the past several months. Pictures of her and Emma at the grocery store, at Emma's school, at the park. Someone had been watching them, documenting their every move. But the final photograph made her knees weak. It showed her at the animal shelter just hours ago, with Emma pointing at Mango's cage. Whoever was behind this had known exactly where she would be and what she would find. A sound from outside made her freeze. Car doors slamming, footsteps on gravel. Through the window, she could see Emma still sitting in the car, But now there were two black SUVs parked across the street. Men in dark suits were getting out, their movements coordinated and purposeful. Rhonda's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, Rhonda," a voice said when she answered. "I trust you found our little gift on your kitchen table. Who is this? What do you want?" "What I want is very simple. That kitten you just adopted has seen things that could destroy very powerful people. We need him back. Over my dead body." "That can be arranged," the voice said coldly. "But we'd prefer to keep this civilized. You have something we need, and we have something you need. I don't need anything from you. Your daughter's safety says otherwise." Rhonda's blood turned to ice. Through the window, she watched as one of the men approached her car. Emma was still inside, clutching Mango's carrier, unaware of the danger surrounding her. "Don't you dare touch her," Rhonda growled into the phone. "Then let's make a trade. The kitten for your daughter's continued well-being. You have 24 hours to decide." The line went dead. Outside, the men were getting back into their vehicles, but the message was clear. They knew where she lived, they knew her routines, and they had no qualms about threatening a child to get what they wanted. Rhonda ran outside to the car, her heart pounding. Emma looked up at her with concerned eyes. "Mom, who were those men? They were looking at our car funny." "Nobody important, sweetheart," Rhonda lied, starting the engine with shaking hands. "We're going to go stay with Aunt Sarah for a few days." "But what about Mango? He hasn't even seen his new home yet." Rhonda looked at the kitten carrier in the back seat. Those innocent green eyes stared back at her, holding secrets that people were willing to kill for. Taking him had been a mistake, but abandoning him now would be an even bigger one. "Mango's coming with us," she said, pulling out of the driveway. "We're all going to stick together from now on." As they drove away from their home, Rhonda caught a glimpse of the black SUVs in her rearview mirror. They weren't following, yet. But she knew this was far from over. The 24-hour deadline was already ticking down, and she had no idea what secrets this small kitten held, or why they were worth threatening her family. But one thing was certain: she would die before letting anyone hurt Emma. The game had begun, and Ronda Rousey was about to discover that some fights extend far beyond the octagon. This time, the stakes weren't just a championship belt. They were life and death. If you're as shocked as I am by this incredible turn of events, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment below with your theories about what Mango witnessed. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to smash that like button to help this story reach more people who need to see what unfolds. The safe house Sarah had arranged was a modest cabin in the mountains outside Los Angeles. Far from the glitz and glamour of Malibu, it offered something more valuable: isolation and security. Sarah Chen had been Rhonda's manager for years, but more importantly, she was one of the few people Rhonda trusted completely. "You can't stay here forever," Sarah said as she helped them unload their hastily packed bags. "Whoever these people are, they have resources. They'll find you eventually." Emma was exploring the cabin with Mango, the kitten having adapted quickly to his new surroundings. His playful energy was a stark contrast to the tension that filled the air whenever the adults spoke. "I know," Rhonda replied, checking the locks on all the windows for the third time. "But I need time to figure out what that night in Vegas really means, and why this kitten is so important to them." Sarah pulled out her laptop and began typing. "I've been doing some research since you called. The accident report from Vegas has some inconsistencies. The other driver was never found, and there were no traffic cameras working in that area that night." "Convenient," Rhonda muttered. "Too convenient. But here's what's really interesting. The animal control records show that several cats were rescued from the scene. Most were adopted quickly, but one was held for months due to special circumstances." Rhonda looked over at Mango, who was now curled up in Emma's lap as she read a book. "Special circumstances? The report is vague, but it mentions that the cat showed signs of trauma and required specialized observation. It was only released for adoption 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks ago was when the threatening phone calls had started, when Rhonda began noticing cars following her, when her life started falling apart for the second time. "There's more," Sarah continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I found a connection between the Vegas incident and a company called Meridian Industries. They're a defense contractor with ties to some very questionable government projects. What kind of projects? The kind that don't officially exist. But I found financial records showing large payments to several individuals in the weeks following your accident, including a payment to someone named Marcus Delano. The name hit Rhonda like a physical blow. Marcus Delano, her former trainer, the man who had helped her reach the pinnacle of her career, and the same person who had mysteriously disappeared right before her accident. That's impossible, Rhonda breathed. Marcus would never. People change when enough money is involved, Sarah said gently, especially when that money comes from people who don't accept failure. Emma's laughter from across the room provided a momentary respite from the heavy conversation. She was playing with Mango, using a small toy mouse to engage the kitten's hunting instincts. The normalcy of the scene was both comforting and heartbreaking. "Mom, look how smart Mango is," Emma called out. "He keeps trying to show me something." Rhonda walked over to see what her daughter meant. Mango was indeed behaving strangely, pawing at a specific spot on the wooden floor and meowing insistently. When Emma moved the toy mouse to different locations, the kitten would retrieve it and bring it back to the same spot. "He's probably just marking his territory," Sarah suggested, but her voice lacked conviction. Rhonda knelt down and examined the floorboard Mango kept indicating. It looked identical to all the others, but when she pressed on it, there was a slight give. The board was loose. "Sarah, do you have a screwdriver?" Minutes later, they had pried up the loose floorboard to reveal a small hollow space beneath. Inside was a waterproof bag containing a USB drive and a handwritten note. "If you're reading this, then Mango led you here just as I hoped he would," the note began. "This drive contains evidence of a conspiracy that goes deeper than you can imagine. The accident in Vegas was meant to silence you permanently, but you survived. Now they're trying to clean up loose ends." Rhonda's hands shook as she continued reading. "The people behind this have been using defense contracts to fund illegal operations for years. Your accident happened because you accidentally witnessed something you weren't supposed to see. Mango was there that night and somehow he remembers. Trust the cat, trust your instincts, and trust no one else." "A friend." Sarah immediately plugged the USB drive into her laptop. The files that appeared on screen were damning. Financial records, communication logs, and video footage that painted a picture of corruption at the highest levels of government and private industry. "This is incredible," Sarah whispered, scrolling through document after document. "These people have been selling weapons to foreign governments, manipulating defense contracts, and eliminating anyone who gets too close to the truth." One video file made Rhonda's blood run cold. It showed the intersection in Vegas where her accident occurred, but from an angle that revealed the truth. The other car hadn't run a red light. It had deliberately rammed into her vehicle. And in the background, barely visible in the grainy footage, was a small orange kitten hiding beneath a parked car. He saw everything, Rhonda realized. Somehow, Mango witnessed the whole thing. Emma had fallen asleep on the couch, still holding the kitten. The peaceful scene was a stark reminder of what was at stake. This wasn't just about justice or revenge anymore. It was about protecting an innocent child from people who had already proven they would kill to keep their secrets. Rhonda's phone buzzed with a text message. "Time's running out, we know where you are, last chance to make this easy." Through the cabin windows, she could see headlights approaching in the distance. Multiple vehicles moving slowly and deliberately up the mountain road. "We need to go," Rhonda said, gently shaking Emma awake. "Right now." "What's happening?" Emma asked groggily, clutching Mango to her chest. "We're going on another adventure, sweetheart. Can you be very quiet for Mommy?" Sarah was already copying the files from the USB drive to multiple backup locations. "I'm sending this to every journalist and law enforcement contact I have," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "If something happens to us, at least the truth will get out." The headlights were getting closer. Rhonda could make out at least 3 vehicles, probably more behind them. The cabin suddenly felt like a trap rather than a sanctuary. "There's a back trail that leads down to the lake," Sarah said, grabbing a backpack and stuffing it with supplies. "My boat is moored at the dock. You can take it across to the other side and disappear into the forest." "What about you?" "Someone needs to stay here and buy you time. Besides, they want the cat, not me. I'll be fine." Rhonda knew Sarah was lying, but there wasn't time to argue. She scooped up Emma and the kitten carrier, following Sarah to the back door of the cabin. "Remember," Sarah said, pressing a phone into Rhonda's hand, "the evidence is already out there. Even if they get the cat, they can't stop what's coming." The sound of car doors slamming echoed through the night air. Voices, coordinated and professional, were organizing around the cabin. Rhonda had minutes, maybe less, before they would be surrounded. "I love you, Sarah," she whispered, hugging her friend tightly. "Love you too. Now go save your daughter." The trail down to the lake was treacherous in the darkness, but Rhonda's training served her well. Emma remained quiet, sensing the danger even if she didn't fully understand it. Mango seemed to understand too, staying calm in his carrier despite the jostling movement. Behind them, lights began flooding the cabin. Shouted commands and the sound of doors being kicked in carried through the night air. Sarah was buying them precious time, but at what cost? The boat was exactly where Sarah had said it would be, a small motorboat tied to a weathered dock. Rhonda had operated similar vessels during her military training years ago. The engine started on the second try, its low rumble masked by the sound of wind through the trees. As they pulled away from the shore, Rhonda could see the cabin in the distance, surrounded by vehicles and armed figures. Spotlights swept the area around the building, but they hadn't thought to check the lake yet. "Where are we going, Mom?" Emma asked, her voice small and frightened. "Somewhere safe," Rhonda replied, though she wasn't sure such a place existed anymore. The lake stretched before them, dark and seemingly endless. On the far shore, dense forest offered the possibility of escape, but also countless places for enemies to hide. Rhonda had to make a choice: keep running and hope they could stay ahead of their pursuers, or find a way to end this once and for all. Mango meowed softly from his carrier, and Emma reached in to comfort him. "It's okay, little guy. Mom's going to keep us safe." Looking at her daughter's trusting face, Rhonda made her decision. Running would only delay the inevitable. These people had unlimited resources and no moral boundaries. The only way to truly protect Emma was to expose the truth and bring down the entire conspiracy. But first, they needed to survive the night. The boat's engine coughed and sputtered as they reached the middle of the lake. Behind them, she could see lights beginning to sweep the shoreline they had just left. It wouldn't be long before someone thought to check the water. "Hold on tight, sweetheart," Rhonda said, pushing the throttle forward. "We're going to go fast for a little while." The boat leaped forward, cutting through the dark water toward an uncertain future. In the carrier beside Emma, Mango's green eyes reflected the moonlight, holding secrets that had already cost lives and would likely cost more before this was over. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Rhonda felt a spark of hope. The evidence was out there now, beyond the reach of their enemies. Whatever happened next, the truth would eventually come to light. The question was whether they would live to see it. As the far shore grew closer, Rhonda began planning their next move. The forest would provide temporary cover, but they needed allies, resources, and most importantly, a way to turn the tables on the people who had been hunting them. The game was far from over, but the rules were about to change. And Ronda Rousey had never been one to back down from a fight, especially when her daughter's life hung in the balance. The small kitten that had started this entire ordeal continued to purr softly in Emma's arms, unaware that he held the key to bringing down one of the most dangerous conspiracies in modern history. But first, they had to make it through the night. What happens next will leave you absolutely speechless. If you're hooked on this incredible story, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss the explosive conclusion. Comment below with your predictions about how Rhonda will fight back. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help spread this amazing story to others. Your support means everything to this channel. The forest on the far shore was denser than Rhonda had anticipated. Ancient pine trees created a canopy so thick that moonlight barely penetrated to the forest floor. She carried Emma while balancing Mango's carrier, every step carefully placed to avoid making noise that might give away their position. "My feet hurt, Mom," Emma whispered after they had been walking for nearly an hour. "I know, baby. Just a little further." But Rhonda had no idea where they were going. The forest seemed endless, and without proper equipment or maps, they were essentially lost. Her phone had no signal this deep in the wilderness, making Sarah's device useless for navigation. A branch snapped somewhere behind them. Rhonda froze, listening intently. The sound could have been an animal, but her instincts told her otherwise. Someone was following them. She found a large fallen log and motioned for Emma to hide behind it. "Stay here with Mango and don't make a sound, no matter what happens." "Mom, you're scaring me." "I'll be right back, I promise." Rhonda moved silently through the trees, using skills she hadn't needed since her military days. The forest was alive with small sounds, insects, rustling leaves, distant water, but underneath it all, she could hear the deliberate footsteps of someone trying to move quietly. Through a gap in the trees, she saw him, a man in tactical gear, moving with the precision of a trained operative. He carried a rifle and wore night vision goggles, scanning the forest methodically. This wasn't some hired thug. This was a professional. But he wasn't alone. Rhonda counted at least 3 other figures spread out through the forest, all moving in a coordinated search pattern. They had boats too, probably faster ones than the vessel she had used to cross the lake. She crept back to where Emma was hiding, her mind racing through their limited options. They couldn't outrun trained operatives in unfamiliar terrain, especially while carrying a child and a kitten. They needed a different strategy. "Emma, I need you to listen very carefully," Rhonda whispered. "We're going to play a game of hide and seek, but this one is very important. You and Mango are going to hide in that hollow tree over there, and you're not going to come out until I come back for you." "What if you don't come back?" The question hit Rhonda like a physical blow. "I will always come back for you, sweetheart. But if something happens, if you hear loud noises or see strangers, you wait until morning and then follow the stream downhill. It will lead you to people who can help." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded bravely. "I love you, Mom. I love you too. More than anything in the world." Rhonda helped Emma and Mango settle into the hollow of a massive oak tree, covering the opening with fallen branches and leaves. From a few feet away, they were completely invisible. Now came the hard part. Rhonda had to draw the search team away from her daughter while somehow surviving the encounter. The odds were terrible, but she had faced worse in the octagon. At least this time, she was fighting for something that truly mattered. She moved deliberately through the forest, making just enough noise to attract attention without seeming obvious about it. Within minutes, she could hear the search pattern changing, converging on her location. The first operative appeared through the trees ahead of her, his rifle raised and ready. In the green glow of his night vision, Rhonda would be clearly visible. "Target acquired," he spoke into his radio. "Female, alone, approximately 200 meters from the lakeshore." "Where's the child?" came the response through his earpiece. "No sign of her yet. Subject may have hidden her somewhere." Rhonda stepped out from behind a tree, her hands raised in apparent surrender. "You found me. Congratulations." The operative kept his weapon trained on her. "Where's your daughter, Ms. Rousey?" "Safe. Somewhere you'll never find her." "We'll see about that." "The cat?" "What cat?" Rhonda asked innocently. The man's finger tightened on his trigger. "Don't play games. We know you took the animal from the shelter. We need it back." "Why? What's so special about one little kitten?" "That's not your concern. Your concern is keeping your daughter alive." 2 more operatives emerged from the forest, flanking Rhonda from both sides. Professional, coordinated, deadly. But they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed she would surrender quietly to protect Emma. They didn't know that the best way to protect her daughter was to ensure these men never left the forest. "You know what I find interesting?" Rhonda said, taking a small step forward. "You're all so focused on one little cat that you've forgotten who you're dealing with." "Stay where you are," the lead operative commanded. "I'm Ronda Rousey. I've fought the best fighters in the world. I've won championships, broken bones, and made grown men tap out in seconds." Another step forward. "And you think 3 guys with guns are going to intimidate me? We're not here to fight. We're here to retrieve stolen property." "Stolen?" Rhonda laughed, the sound echoing through the dark forest. "You mean the kitten that witnessed you trying to murder me? The one piece of evidence that can bring down your entire operation?" The operative's radio crackled. "Team 2 has found fresh tracks leading toward the old mining road, moving to intercept." Rhonda's blood ran cold. There was another team and they were getting closer to Emma's hiding spot. She had to end this quickly. "Last chance," the lead operative said. "Tell us where the cat is and we'll make this quick." "I have a better idea," Ronda replied, and then she moved. Years of training took over. She dove to the side as the first shots rang out, rolling behind a large tree as bullets splintered bark inches from her head. The operatives were good, but they were used to fighting from a distance. Ronda needed to get close. She sprinted through the forest, using the trees as cover while the operatives tried to track her movement. Their night vision gave them an advantage, but it also limited their peripheral vision. Ronda had learned to fight in all conditions during her military service. The first operative rounded a tree just as Ronda's fist connected with his throat. He dropped his rifle, gasping for air, and she followed up with a knee to his solar plexus that sent him crashing to the forest floor. "Target down," she heard one of the others radio. "Repeat, Johnson is down." Ronda grabbed the fallen rifle and checked its ammunition. Full magazine, safety off. She had used similar weapons during her service, though she preferred hand-to-hand combat when possible. A twig snapped to her left. The second operative was trying to flank her, moving carefully through the underbrush. Ronda waited until he was close enough, then stepped out from behind her cover. The man was fast, bringing his weapon up quickly, but not fast enough. Ronda's shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending his rifle flying into the darkness. "Two down," she called out to the remaining operative. "Want to make it 3? "You're making a mistake," came the reply from somewhere in the darkness. "We're not the only team out here. Even if you kill all of us, there are others. Your daughter will never be safe." "Maybe not," Ronda admitted, moving carefully through the trees. "But she'll be safer without you." She found the third operative trying to radio for backup, his position given away by the glow of his communication device. He saw her coming and raised his weapon, but Ronda was already moving. She tackled him around the waist, driving him backward into a tree with enough force to knock the wind out of him. The rifle fell from his hands as they struggled. He was strong and well-trained, but Ronda had spent years perfecting the art of ground fighting. Within seconds, she had him in a chokehold that would render him unconscious in moments. "Wait," he gasped. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. These people, they have resources you can't imagine. Government connections, military contractors, politicians. Even if you expose them, they'll just disappear and start over somewhere else." "Maybe," Ronda said, tightening her grip. "But at least they'll know that some people can't be bought or intimidated." The operative went limp in her arms. Ronda checked his pulse, unconscious but alive. She wasn't a killer despite what these people had tried to turn her into. She gathered the weapons and communication devices from all 3 operatives, then headed back toward Emma's hiding spot. The radio chatter indicated that Team 2 was still searching the mining road area, but they would eventually expand their search pattern. "Emma," she whispered as she approached the hollow tree. "It's Mom. You can come out now." Her daughter emerged from the hiding spot, still clutching Mango's carrier. "Are the bad men gone?" "These ones are," Ronda said, hugging Emma tightly. "But there might be others. We need to keep moving." They followed the stream downhill as Ronda had instructed Emma to do if something happened. The water would mask their scent and make tracking more difficult. After an hour of careful movement, they emerged from the forest near a small mountain town. The first building they encountered was a 24-hour diner, its neon sign flickering in the pre-dawn darkness. Through the windows, Ronda could see a few truckers and early shift workers having coffee and breakfast. "Are we going to eat?" Emma asked hopefully. "I'm really hungry." Ronda realized that neither of them had eaten since leaving the animal shelter the day before. Emma was exhausted, hungry, and probably traumatized by everything that had happened. They needed food, rest, and most importantly, a way to contact the outside world. But walking into that diner would expose them to potential danger. Anyone inside could be working for their enemies, or could inadvertently give away their location. On the other hand, they couldn't survive in the wilderness indefinitely, especially with a young child. "Okay, sweetheart," Ronda decided, "but we're going to be very careful. If I tell you to run, you take Mango, and you run as fast as you can. Understand?" Emma nodded solemnly. "I understand, Mom." The diner was warm and bright after the cold darkness of the forest. A few customers looked up as they entered, but most were focused on their own meals and conversations. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, approached their table with menus and coffee. "You folks look like you've had a rough night," she observed. "Everything okay?" "Car trouble," Rhonda lied smoothly. "We had to walk quite a ways to find help." "Well, you're safe now. What can I get you?" As Emma studied the children's menu with intense concentration, Rhonda used the diner's payphone to call Sarah's emergency number. The phone rang several times before going to voicemail. "Sarah, it's me. If you get this message, we made it across the lake. I hope you're okay. The evidence needs to get to Detective Morrison at LAPD. He's one of the good ones. Tell him everything." She hung up, hoping her friend was still alive to receive the message. The radio she had taken from the operatives had gone silent, which could mean anything from mission completion to communication blackout. Emma was coloring on her placemat when a news report on the diner's television caught Rhonda's attention. The volume was low, but the closed captions told the story. Former UFC champion wanted for questioning and kidnapping case. Her own photo filled the screen, along with Emma's school picture. The report claimed that Rhonda had abducted her own daughter following a custody dispute and was considered armed and dangerous. "That's us on TV, Mom," Emma said, looking up from her coloring. Several customers had noticed the television report and were now staring at their table. Rhonda could see recognition dawning in their eyes, followed by uncertainty about what to do. "We need to go," Rhonda said quietly, standing up and leaving money on the table. But it was too late. One of the truckers was already on his phone, probably calling the police. Another customer had moved to block the exit, trying to look casual about it. "Ma'am?" the waitress said, approaching their table with obvious nervousness. "I think there might be some confusion here. Maybe you should wait for the authorities to sort this out." Rhonda looked around the diner, calculating their options. The back exit was clear, but it would mean leaving through the kitchen. The front door was blocked by well-meaning customers who thought they were helping. "Emma, remember what we practiced," Rhonda said softly. Her daughter nodded and quietly picked up Mango's carrier. They had rehearsed emergency procedures during their self-defense training sessions, though Rhonda had never imagined they would need to use them. "I'm sorry about this," Rhonda announced to the diner, then grabbed a chair and threw it through the large front window. The crash of breaking glass sent everyone diving for cover. In the chaos, Rhonda and Emma slipped through the shattered window and ran toward the parking lot. Behind them, she could hear shouting and the sound of sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police and they would be here within minutes. Rhonda spotted an old pickup truck with the keys still in the ignition, probably belonging to one of the truckers inside. She hated to steal, but their lives depended on getting away quickly. "Is this stealing, Mom?" Emma asked as they climbed into the truck. "Sometimes good people have to do bad things to protect the people they love," Rhonda explained, starting the engine. "We'll return it when this is all over." They drove out of the parking lot just as the first police car arrived. In the rearview mirror, Rhonda could see officers talking to the diner customers, probably getting descriptions and trying to determine which direction they had gone. The truck's radio was tuned to a local news station. Within minutes, there was a breaking news update about the incident at the diner, complete with a description of the stolen vehicle. "This is getting worse," Rhonda muttered, switching off the radio. But then Mango did something unexpected. The kitten began meowing insistently and pawing at Emma's backpack. When she opened it to see what he wanted, he immediately climbed inside and began digging through her belongings. "What's he doing?" Emma asked. Mango emerged from the backpack carrying a small object in his mouth, a USB drive that Rhonda had never seen before. It was different from the one they had found at the cabin, smaller and more sophisticated. "Where did this come from?" Rhonda asked, taking the drive from the kitten. Emma shrugged. "Maybe it was in his carrier. He's been acting weird about my backpack since we left the shelter." Rhonda realized what had happened. Someone at the animal shelter had hidden this second drive with Mango, probably sewn into his carrier, or hidden in his bedding. The kitten had somehow worked it loose, and was now trying to show them what he had been carrying all along. This changed everything. If there was additional evidence on this drive, it might be enough to not only clear her name but bring down the entire conspiracy. But first, they needed to find a safe place to examine it. The highway stretched ahead of them, leading toward Los Angeles and whatever final confrontation awaited them there. In the passenger seat, Emma was falling asleep despite the chaos around them, still holding Mango protectively in her arms. The little kitten that had started this entire ordeal looked up at Ronda with those intelligent green eyes, as if he understood exactly what was at stake. Somehow this small animal had become the key to everything, the witness, the evidence, and now the deliverer of what might be their salvation. But their enemies were closing in from all sides. The police thought she was a kidnapper. The conspirators wanted them dead, and they were running out of places to hide. The final battle was coming, and Ronda knew that everything she had learned, everything she had survived, had been preparing her for this moment. The truth was finally within reach, but the cost of obtaining it might be higher than she had ever imagined. As the sun began to rise over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ronda made a silent promise to her sleeping daughter and the brave little kitten who had brought them this far. Whatever happened next, she would see this through to the end. The people who had tried to destroy her family would face justice, and the truth would finally come to light. But first, they had to survive what was coming. The road ahead disappeared into the morning mist, carrying them toward a destiny that none of them could have imagined when a little girl had simply asked if she could adopt a kitten. Sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest consequences, and sometimes the most innocent creatures carry the most dangerous secrets.